Here's the nice headline. Here's the big story. Somebody living on borrowed time. USC, I looked up, and they were down 14 early. USC had given up 153 yards rushing in the first two quarters of the game up at Cal against the Golden Bears. Trojans trailed 43-29 to a bad Golden Bears team. No defense optional, defense not being played. And then they scored 3 touchdowns in the fourth quarter. Caleb Williams wound up throwing for 369 passing. Trojan defense had 4 takeaways, but they gave up 527 yards in offense to Cal, those Golden Bears. And Link Riley just in denial that this, it doesn't talk about how bad it is. He was just so amped that his defense forced 4 takeaways, but geez, it gave up 527 yards. I think it's going to be fun to see USC play in the Holiday Bowl because they're going to lose some more games because they're not playing one iota of defense. And they got Oregon, they got Washington, and they still got UCLA on the schedule. So I think it'd be fun to see the Trojans come to Petco Park, play in the Holiday Bowl. Yes?
I think so. Yeah.
Okay, so we got that to talk about. UCLA, it's just kind of weird, the handling of the quarterbacks. I'll tell you, and when I watch games, I understand I'm wired differently. You knew that. I watch games and I watch formations and I watch how they utilize their personnel. And Chip Kelly's just a mad scientist. I mean, what he does with motion, what he does with fakes, what he does creating mismatches, crossing patterns, pick plays, delayed handoffs. I mean, he's just a phenomenal offensive mind. I just don't quite understand. He starts Ethan Garbers in the game this past weekend. He throws for 269. His defense goes out and just beats the hell out of Colorado's Shedeur Sanders. 7 quarterback sacks, 2 interceptions. Defense is playing like UCLA's defense has not played in decades. Very impressive. But he's not developing the kid quarterback, Dante Moore. And I don't understand that because the only way that kid is going to get better is continue to take snaps, live fire action. And I know that, Kelly was astounded that there were 6 interceptions in the last 3 starts that Dante Moore made. There were 3 pick sixes taken back for scores in consecutive games. But the only way he gets better is he's got to play. And I think they're gambling a little bit of fire because of the transfer portal. That kid is sitting there and he's not practicing with the number ones and he hasn't played 3 games in a row now. You might lose him. He's from Detroit. I mean, I'm sorry. People tamper with people all the time. You mean to tell me there's not a phone call coming from that area code from Michigan?
Oh, yeah.
You mean to tell me Michigan State, which is in utter chaos, wouldn't try to steal that kid and bring him back to the Big Ten? So I think Chip's got to be really careful with this Dante Moore thing because this was the future. And he played really well his first couple of games. But like any 18 or 19-year-old freshman, it catches up to you. And defenses will figure out ways to slow you down and put you in situations that maybe you don't handle well. But I think he's got to play a lot so he'll stay there because it wouldn't shock me if he does not play this back half of the schedule that he could wind up somewhere else in the Big Ten because he's from Detroit.
Yeah, interesting. Well, first of all, with SC, how in the hell do you give up over 40 points to Cal? I mean, I get it if you're playing Oregon maybe, but not Cal. When has Cal been competitive in college football? It's been forever. I mean, Jared Goff was there for a year or two. Right?
This is Steve Bartkowski era.
Oh, yeah. Now you go back in the 70s. The other thing, the UCLA thing with Dante Moore, it sort of sounds familiar. Like, remember back in the early days of Drew Brees playing for Marty Schottenheimer, and he was always fumbling and having interceptions. And finally, Schottenheimer benched him. And I think, didn't he start Flutie for a while, a little bit, because he just had it with the turnover. So I wonder, is that what Chip Kelly's doing?
Could well be, but it's a different era with the transfer portal. Drew Brees was back at Purdue. He started as a freshman, and he went through that growing pains syndrome. But they started him. Joe Tiller, who was a former coach at Wyoming, was a friend of mine, was the head coach at Purdue. He fast-forwarded Drew Brees by leaving him on the field, molding him, and letting him experience what he had to experience. And Purdue wasn't real good when Drew Brees was the starting quarterback, and then Drew Brees became a great quarterback in the National Football League. So we'll just have to wait and see what happens with this situation. Okay, we go